Duinkerke railway station in the northwest of France. But we're not here to take a train, but a bus instead. A bus along an abandoned railway line where railway stations have been replaced by bus stops. What it's like to travel along this abandoned international railway line that has been replaced by a bus between France and Belgium. From where on you won't only find a connection on trains into Belgium, but also the coastal tram, the second longest tramway in the world. We're all about to find out in this video. So join me on this kind of different trip report along this abandoned railway line. If you like this video, don't forget to give a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more trip reports about more sustainable ways of transportation, mainly focusing on long distance and or international traveling, mainly by train, sometimes ferry and even sometimes buses, then hit the subscribe button. But for now, let's roll the intro. And like any trip report, I'll start off by showing you the railway station where this journey starts, what is Duinkerke in the northwest of France. The railway station isn't that special or big, it's just a normal railway station. There's some places to wait inside, there's a ticket office, some vending machines for tickets, a convenience store, and that's basically it. Even though the last international train to Belgium departed here in 1958, you will find the buses nowadays. About railway connections, you will find trains to Calais, Lille, and there are some high-speed trains that will go to Paris. And a big downside when it comes to these trains, the frequency is not that impressive, and especially not towards Calais. Speaking of which, from both Duinkerke and Calais you will find ferries to the UK, to Dover. However, if you are a foot passenger, you can only take the ferries that do depart from Calais. Even though it's not the most obvious way to travel to the UK. I did it before and I have a trip report on that as well. The city buses in Duinkerke are totally free and they do cover quite a big area. As a matter of fact, the frequency is rather good at most routes and they cover, well, big parts of Duinkerke and the surrounding communities. This here is the bus area of Duinkerke railway station and it's rather big. Apart from the regional buses, there are also some long distance buses being operated by Flixbus and BlaBlaBus. What I found out, these buses only stay within France, but I don't know if this might change in the near future. Due to this location, I think it would make a lot of sense if you find some long distance buses that will go to the UK or Belgium. Anyway, the bus station is pretty clear, directions have been marked crystal clear. And also departure times have been given very good. You even find some boarding areas like you're in a metro. I mean, that's pretty cool, isn't it? And of course, lots of line maps. I really wonder if I think this will be a better connection if there will still be trains on this route. Even though I'm really in favor of trains, I think the frequency wouldn't be as good as it is right now. Before we take the first bus, let's take a closer look at the route map. We are right now at the railway station of Duinkerke, also called Adinkerque Gare. The buses go all the way to Grevelingen. And if you think all these towns do sound pretty Dutch, well yes, that's true, because this part of France used to be a Dutch-speaking part of France. And even though the towns' names are pretty Dutch, there's not a lot left anymore of the Dutch-speaking community in this area of France. Anyway, we'll be taking a bus from Adinkerque Gare. We can take line C1 or C2, that doesn't really matter, to the bus stop Fort de Dun. For this section of the route, there still used to be trains until 1994. And the other part, till Belgium, has been abandoned since 1958. What's really a pity though. However, if you look at this connection as an international railway connection between France and Belgium, it's really a local connection. It doesn't make a lot of sense to travel for long distances along this route. So therefore, having this railway line being replaced by buses, I don't know if it's a bad thing or not. And especially because if there would be trains on this route, the frequency would probably be much lower. About the buses, of course you can expect different kind of rolling stock, but in general these are rather simple city buses. However, you will find USB sockets and there's free Wi-Fi available. Clear screens throughout the bus will host route information. The only downside though, it's only in French. And another thing about route information, it's not available in Google Maps or the International Railway timetable. If at least some of these buses would be visible in, for example, Google Maps, I think it would be way better for people to travel to Duinkerke and also just improve visitors to Duinkerke and the local economy. The buses are totally free, what is a great thing on its own already. And even though these buses are for free, extra services like the possibility to charge your mobile devices and free Wi-Fi make these buses even better. Although personally I rarely use those facilities. The bus will go through the outskirts of Duinkerke and will pass by some prettier and less prettier parts. And will also cross the abandoned railway line at several spots. This counts for both line C1 and C2. On the way from Duinkerke to Belgium I took line C1. And the bus is arriving here at the bus stop Fort de Duin. Well, probably my French pronunciation isn't good at all, but I don't think this needs a lot of explanation. Right next to this bus stop you find a fortress in the dunes, and you can see it right over here. It even functioned during the Second World War. But more related to this video, right at the side of the fortress you can see the old abandoned railway line. Somehow I guess the scenery from this railway line would have been pretty nice actually. Right next to the railway line, at least for big parts, there's a bicycle path nowadays as well. Anyway, time to go back to the bus stop. And right next to the bus stop there's a parking spot for, well, obviously cars, but also a spot where you can park bikes. This is not only being used for the bus stop by the way, but also for some sports facilities that are located right next to it. Directions what way to go to for what bus line have been marked crystal clear. However, something that confused me a lot when I did this first research on this route is how the name De Panne is being pronounced. It's called Adinkerke. And this makes sense really, because the railway station of De Panne is actually not located in the town of De Panne, but in the town of the nearby Adinkerke. But, well, it's really confusing if the trains go from the railway station De Panne and these buses go to exactly the same railway station, but they call it Adinkerke. The interior of these buses is rather simple. I mean, these are still a kind of city buses, but they're good enough for what they serve for, regional commuter lines. One thing I really want to point out, and I hope someone picks this up, I think it would be great if these buses will be added in Google Maps and other timetables where people can plan their journey, like for example HAVA's, what will also be used for example for the International Railway timetable of the German state-owned railway company DB. Another thing, and especially for international railway passengers, calling the railway station of De Panne on one side for the buses Adinkerke, and for all the other ways of transportation, so I'm talking about the coastal tram in Belgium and the trains in Belgium, De Panne, is really confusing. So please mind this and hopefully someone can change this. And at last, if you want to find information about the buses and the timetables etc, you can go to the website www.dkbus.fr. It pops up on the screen right now. At some parts you can see the abandoned railway line from the bus, and then the bus makes its way to the town of De Panne. There are not a lot of stops in Belgium. It will pass by the theme park Plopsaland. This is a huge theme park that's popular for people from all over Belgium, the Netherlands and I think also France, before arriving at the railway station of De Panne. Or Adinkerke. So I'm right now at the railway station of De Panne or Adinkerke, I don't know why you want to mention it. From here on I'll take the train and I think I'll continue this trip report to the railway station of Ghent. But you can go to many destinations in Belgium, probably tell you more about this with the use of a voice-over. These trains are relatively simple. In the summertime you also find special coast express trains. We'll tell you more about that with the use of voiceover. So for now let's explore this railway station and the train a bit. And just a spoiler alert, yes, I will continue this trip report until the railway station of Ghent. Speaking about the coastal trains, I also arrived here with one of the coastal trains, and these are basically extra trains in the summer season to the coastal towns in Belgium, which are really popular. Apart from that, along the Belgian coast you also find, until recently, the longest tramway in the world. I do have a trip report on that as well. And of course, the bus that I took to France. Apart from that, at this railway station there's also a Flixbus stop. And, like in many Belgian railway stations, quite some spots where you can park your bike. Apart from that, you also find the bike sharing program of the Belgian state-owned railway company Blue Bike, but not far from here you also find Donkey Republic. I really like Donkey Republic, their bike sharing system. There are some information screens about departing trains, some vending machines for tickets, and something I really like within this railway station, there's also an area inside. You find some vending machines for snacks, drinks and coffee, and there's this waiting room. Right next to this waiting room there is a staffed ticket counter. I think it's nice to see this a bit more in general. At the front there's a taxi stand, and this here is the train that I'll be taking on my way. These are the regular trains from and to De Panne. The trains on the regular routes are kind of old. These are the trains MS-80 that have been built in 1979 for the Belgian State-owned Railway Company. They fixed them up so they look actually pretty nice still, but well, obviously these are not the newest trains anymore. For example, there are no accessible areas, and if you need assistance to enter the train, if you are traveling in a wheelchair for example, you need to request this in advance. And I think this is really a big downside. Also, for passengers with mobility problems, these are not the most easy trains to board. Somehow I feel like in Belgium they have a tradition of fixing old trains instead of buying new trains. Of course, it's not that black and white, and partially that's also good. I mean, why would you buy new trains if you can still use the old trains? However, I think these trains really had their best time. And I think if you want to use these trains, they will be great for extra services in the peak hours. Anyway, let's start with a train tour for these trains. And no train tour is complete without a toilet review. Actually, I didn't do a review, I just opened the door and filmed it. This here is the first class that comes in a 2x2 layout. I would expect this for a second class product though. All over the train you find the overhead luggage racks, but between the back ends of the seats, of course you can store luggage over there as well. This here is the layout for the biggest part of the second class that comes in a 3x2 layout with seats facing each other, with a smaller table at the side near the window, and right under that you find a garbage bin. This here is the area for passengers traveling with a bike, or the accessible area. You have some more space to park a bike over here, and right next to this you find the accessible toilets. Above all entrance doors at both the compartments you find LED screens that will host route information, and this part of the second class over here looks slightly different. Actually, I like these seats most because I don't like seats facing each other that much, to be honest. And the rest, well, comes in the 3x2 layout. Pretty simple, but it's okay. There's no free Wi-Fi or Wi-Fi at all in these trains, and power plugs, well, they are there, but you have to look a little bit for them. All windows do have a sunscreen, and something I like most, you can open up the windows in these trains. By the way, this train is mentioned as intercity, but it literally stops everywhere. For the fastest connections you better take this train until Ghent and change there to other trains.
Onze eerstvolgende tot Gent Sint-Pieters worden Kokzijde, Veurde, Dingsmuide, Kortemark, Lichtervelde, Tielt, Dijkse, De Binte en Gent Sint-Pieters. Eerstvolgende het station van Kokzijde. Beste reizigers, ik wens u alvast een aangename reis.
And for the last little bit of this video, I'll show you some views from the train. I left the train at the railway station of Ghent St. Peter's. I hope you liked this video or this has been a helpful video to you. If so, please give me a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more trip reports about long distance or cross-bordering, traveling on a more sustainable way of transportation, mainly train, then hit that subscribe button. Thank you for watching and see you on the next video.